Remarkable work happens here, fueled by brain power and a desire to help families of the 80,000 missing American service members from World War I, Korea, Vietnam, and other wars. Guys like Gerald Clayton and Louis Tushla, Nebraskans who joined the Navy in the late 1930s. Both were on the USS Oklahoma during the attack on Pearl Harbor. Like most of the 400-plus on board who died that day, their unidentified remains ended up in mass graves in Hawaii.
It's our nation's greatest promise to those who serve and their families, to say you have put your life on the line by stepping into those boots, and we are here for you, and we will come and find you no matter how long it takes, no matter how hard it is, and we will bring you home.
That's the mission of the Department of Defense POW MIA accounting agency. It has 2 labs in the country. One is in an Offutt Air Force Base building that was once a World War II bomber factory. DPAA is the largest employer of forensic anthropologists in the world. Staff also include dental experts, data scientists, historians, and others, almost all with advanced degrees.
This is 50% science, 50% detective work. 50% something else?
What did Willy Wonka say? It's all science. You know, detective. It is the science arm of detective work.
Research and recovery comes first. A team excavating the site of a plane crash, or with the USS Oklahoma disinterring remains from graves. Then remains arrive here. One of the next steps is laying out bones on tables for analysis. Out of respect, we don't show bones of actual service members.
Hi, Katie.
Hi there. We'll start with the cranium, actually, if you want to place that in the ring there.
But Katie East gave us a good idea of how this works using a teaching skeleton.
So would this be a fairly typical sample that you might have come into the lab?
Yes, it can be. Very often we'll only get parts of skeletons, depending on where the remains come from.
Making sure bones fit together, or articulate, so they know it's a single individual.
And this is a nice articulation here. So after we have a single skeleton ready for analysis, essentially what we'll do is start building a biological profile. Take measurements that can help us do the analyses, and then we'll assess things like sex, age, height, and then look for anything like injuries or signs of disease.
Skull and pelvis assessment helps determine sex.
So we'll look here in this area, that's glabella. It's larger in males than it is in females.
Looking at the surface of a joint connecting 2 pubic bones helps determine age.
And that will degrade over time as you get older, unfortunately. And we have some references that tell us sort of the pattern of decline.
Abnormalities provide clues that could connect the skeleton to a medical record, like indication of an earlier in life injury.
But the fact that we're missing a big chunk of bone here, and that we have some spiculing and this perforation here, leads me to believe that there was an injury.
So a broken ankle, maybe?
Probably, something like that.
Other anthropologists are doing this work on real cases, done in the blind, meaning they don't know much about the case.
We want to try our best to limit as much bias as an analyst may have in their assessment.
Larkin Kennedy sorts through bits of a wool blanket that covered a service member in their casket.
So in order to make sure that there's no small pieces of evidence or small teeth or anything like that that might be something we want associated with an individual. So we have to pick through all of that.
One thing that's really interesting about these remains is that they are all black, as you can see. And so you can get different color staining from different taphonomic processes, or you can also get it from things that happen around the time of death, like burning. So if you were, for example, in a plane crash or something like that, you could see burning on bones as well.
And in this case, there are no duplicated or overlapping bones. However, there are some differences in the skeleton that suggest that this is actually more than one person. For instance, the left leg is, in general, much shorter than the right leg.
It's amazing that every single skeleton's a little bit different. Everybody has something strange about them or something interesting about them, honestly.
DNA is a key tool, especially with a sample from a family member for comparison.
And we take DNA for 2 reasons. One is to, again, make sure that all of the elements go together. And then the other one, of course, is to help with identification.
Items found at a site or in a casket are examined in the material evidence lab.
This looks like possibly part of a boot. So you've got like a rubber sole or insole.
And this looks like part of a zipper.
So zippers could have come from basically anything. It could be the uniform, it could be gear that they were wearing, it could be from the plane itself.
A 1929 coin helps date an event. The prescription of these glasses could match medical records. Watches, buttons, rings provide more clues.
Most of the evidence that we get is sort of supporting, it says we are in the right place, we're in the right time period.
Multiple lines of evidence are needed to confirm the identity of the missing service member. A DPAA medical examiner makes the final decision.
Every case is unique in its own way. Some present their own challenges. We've been able to make an identification as fast as 6 days. That is not the norm. That's when everything lines up, or it could take years.
USS Oklahoma casework began in 2015. With 13,000 bones from 388 unidentified sailors and Marines mixed in more than 60 caskets.
When the project started, it was the primary thing being done in this laboratory, and so every table had Oklahoma skeletal remains.
Welcome to the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency ceremony.
After more than 5 years, the Offutt Lab is on track to identify more than 90% of the men who died on the USS Oklahoma.
I would like to take this time to welcome the family members of the USS Oklahoma sailors and Marines who are present with us today. They are the families of Fireman First Class Louis James Tushla and Storekeeper Second Class Gerald Lee Clayton.
It's like a closure. It's like we're representing our family who waited so long for word of him, and it's like a closure now.
Identified remains are returned to hometown cemeteries or back to Hawaii for burial, with a marker, a name, and those scientist detectives who made it happen watching.
It gives us that opportunity to step back, look at the big picture and the effect that this has on ourselves and everyone, family members, other people within the organization, and it makes it special